right, good evening, everyone. Welcome. If you want to grab a seat, we'll get started. Hi there. Thank you so much for joining us at our second community conversation on the BCPS strategic plan. We are so glad you're here. Welcome, Delegate Kathy Forbes. Thank you so much for joining us. Oh, round of applause. Welcome on. All right, so we're going to jump in. So hopefully we'll get through this and get to the portion of the evening where we know everyone wants to engage and have conversations. And we're really here for you, to hear from you, to talk about the process of developing a BCPS strategic plan. So tonight you're going to hear from our superintendent, who's going to outline the process of developing a strategic plan, the key components of a strategic plan, the work that has been happening for the last 2 years leading up to this moment. A lot of great work has happened, and it's really informing this process as we move through this draft plan. And so after you hear from Dr. Rogers, we'll have an opportunity for you to talk amongst yourselves at the table, identifying any gaps, gathering your feedback specific to the initiatives that Dr. Rogers is going to walk us through tonight. And then after that, we'll have you report out what you've discussed at your tables, and then we'll open it up for question and answer portion specific to the initiatives that Dr. Rogers has discussed and outlined and the process of developing the strategic plan. And then once we get through all of that, hopefully we'll get you home in time for a nice dinner, relax a little bit before you get ready for the next day, of course. So we, again, want to thank you for choosing to spend your evening with us talking about this very important work and very important plan for our school system. As you know, our goal is to fast forward student achievement. And so Dr. Rogers tonight is really going to tell you about the work that's been happening over the last 2 years and the work that will continue to ensure that all students are thriving in our schools. So I would like to turn it over to Dr. Rogers. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much for being here. And thank you for Ms. Onijala for sharing basically the overview of this evening. I am excited to share with you some specific information about what we've been working on for the last 2 years in support of our 110,000 students, and to hear from you directly your reactions to the initiatives that we've outlined, any potential areas where we need to include that we haven't considered. That's very important to us. As you might notice, there are different events happening this evening, and we are actually going to be doing some pop-ups and push-ins to meetings that are occurring. We meet monthly with the Council of PTAs. We will be sharing with all of our PTA leaderships across the system this information for their feedback. We're going to show up at some regularly scheduled PTA meetings where there are community members to push in to hear their feedback, as well as central office PLD and our principals leadership development to hear a variety of feedback from our stakeholders. We want to make this as accessible as possible, so when we do come up with the final version of the strategic plan, that it really represents the voice of many stakeholders. The purpose of a strategic plan, as you know, is to make sure that we have a vehicle to share the BCPS story. We have said from the beginning that academic achievement is at the heart of what we do. Learning is our core purpose, and we exist to make sure that our students are learning at high levels. That being said, we also understand the history of Baltimore County Public Schools and the work that it's going to take to bring us back up to the top. A strategic plan also enhances accountability and accessibility for families and communities. You can go to one place in one location and find out what is our plan for the longer term, as opposed to the annual priorities that you have that information about. It includes resource links for people who want to take a deeper dive and learn more about the system and the trajectory of the system. It will include those links, and it serves as a roadmap for all of us, aligning our efforts linked to the priority across the divisions in Team BCPS. And so if you recall at the very beginning, 2023, we began with a transition team report. We had members from all divisions. We had stakeholders, external stakeholders that were a part of a team. They reviewed many documents. They had many interviews and also received feedback from stakeholders. And what they did was triangulate all of the information to make sure that what we were going to focus on indeed reflected the feedback from our stakeholder. So we shared this report at the Board of Education. It's posted on our website, and this is what really fast-forwarded us as we moved into the next few years. We had 4 priorities that continue to guide our work every single day. Number 1, academic achievement, followed by infrastructure, but not just the building infrastructure, even though we have the 3rd oldest set of buildings in the system, but also processes. How do we communicate data, moving data forward, payroll, human resources, and information technology. Safety and climate. Also another priority, because we heard from our community members that safety was extremely important, not only the physical safety, but the social emotional well-being of our students and our staff members, and lastly, highly effective workforce. And so in order to talk about what we plan to do as part of the strategic plan, it's important, and fast forward Team BCPS at high levels, it's important that we rewind and take a look at what have we done since 2023. And so this, and you'll see this for 3 of the priorities, a then and now chart where I'm going to attempt to quickly walk you through some of the things that are actually different already in Team BCPS that we're not waiting for. We didn't wait because we had a sense of urgency around the needs for our students. And so the first area is around literacy and English language development for our multilingual learners. In the past, we had curriculum that was not aligned to standards. Today, we can say that all of our curriculum is aligned to the state standards. It's rooted in evidence-based programs. We are teaching the science of reading and best practices. In the area of science, there is still no state minimum requirement for teaching minutes for science. We identified 2 years ago that we didn't see enough of an emphasis on science, and we also saw the data that came out of the state reports reflecting that, and so we established in BCPS what our expectations were for science instruction in our elementary schools, resulting in improved student performance, which we just shared recently, our MESA grade 5 and grade 8 scores, as well as life science biology at the high school level. For school support and improvement, we were trying to support all schools in the same way, despite where they sat and what they needed. We have a group of schools that the state designated as comprehensive school improvement or targeted school improvement for a specific group of students. And so we created a differentiated school support and improvement team for those schools. It's a group of supervisors, but they also have specialists that work directly in the schools, specifically in the area of literacy, mathematics, English language development, and ESOL. What you find these specialists doing are co-teaching with the teachers, they're observing lessons, they're giving feedback, and they're working inside of the schools to help move instruction and student progress forward. For our teacher and leader training, I've shared this in other venues, we had minimal professional development. In terms of actual teaching teachers, all teachers every year, what we mean when we talk about high expectations, what we mean when we talk about a good lesson, we used those terms, but we weren't all on the same page. We had a group of consulting teachers, which we still have, a little more than 40 teachers who work with our brand new teachers to the workforce. They received annual training on quality teaching. Everyone else did not. And so we changed that. This summer was the 2nd summer in a row where we had more than 5,000 teachers participating in professional development in June. We are using high quality training, and we're using the skillful teacher, which is the work of John Saphir. It is research-based high quality instruction. And lastly, in the area of academics, student achievement. We had stagnant performance since 2011 in BCPS. As you know, we had a downward academic trajectory and our gaps were widening over time. And now we see that we have rising achievement. that there are targeted supports in place for our students. We are monitoring our data on a regular basis, and we're seeing improved outcomes across student groups. You will note that when we present our data, we don't just talk about our data in the aggregate. It is important to see the number for all move up, but what's more important is what lives underneath that. So when we report our data, we also report all of our racial and ethnic groups and our student service groups. Student service groups refer to students living in poverty, multilingual learners, as well as students receiving special education services. And our goal is not just to improve in the aggregate, but to make sure that all of the groups of students are improving as we move forward in Team BCPS. And so, because of the work that we've done, we've analyzed our progress and identified where is it that we still need to go as a school system as we put together a strategic plan. And so, under priority 1, we've identified as key initiatives for the next few years for Baltimore County Public Schools to continue to expand access to full-day pre-kindergarten. You will note that full-day pre-kindergarten is a proven strategy that impacts a student's trajectory throughout of all of their K through 12 years and beyond. It impacts their lifetime earning. Students who are able to demonstrate readiness in kindergarten, that makes a significant impact. Over the last 2 years, we've added more than 1,800 full-day pre-K seats in Baltimore County Public Schools, and we want and need to continue expansion. Implement high-quality, standards-aligned curriculum. So we're very grateful to now have the materials that we need in front of our students, but having the materials is only half of it. The other piece is making sure that we're implementing it with fidelity for all of our students, that we're expecting the best for all of our students, no matter what zip code, what community, that every student is receiving access to the curriculum. That we are providing the comprehensive professional development, as I said, and educator training. One of the reasons why it's so important for us to continue advancing educator retention is because we want to go deeper in the training. We don't want to be training a brand new workforce every single year at year 1. Year 2, we want to add the next level of training, and so on and so forth. And so we're excited that over the last 3 years, we've seen a 27% decline in the teacher resignations in BCPS. And lastly, we want to continue working hand in hand with our families and with the state of Maryland to strengthen special education and multilingual supports and services to our students with the greatest needs. Priority 2 is safety and climate, and so if we do the then and now, a few of those items. The first one is attendance, and we talk about attendance a lot because we believe this is the highest leverage strategy that we have. We cannot instruct students, we can't make them feel safe and welcomed if they are not in school. And so at the peak of chronic absenteeism, we had almost 35% of our students that were disengaged, missing more than 18 days of school. That is no longer the case. BCPS led the state in improvement last year. They haven't shared the data for this year, but we do know that for this past year, 120 schools out of 176 further reduced their chronic absenteeism numbers, and we're seeing family and community engagement inside of the schools. Student behavior, that was some feedback that we received in 2023. A lot of concerns around disruptive behaviors seemingly going unchecked, or students in a revolving door pattern where there was a behavior of disruption and they'd be right back in the classroom. And so we went back to get that feedback, shared with all of our leaders clear expectations around behaviors, also shared these expectations with our families, and put in mechanisms for accountability where we monitor to make sure that there's alignment with the code of conduct and the disciplinary infractions and the consequences that are received. We remain in active communication with our families. You might have noticed over the last few years when there's an incident that impacts your school community or impacts your classroom, you receive a letter directly from the principal so that you can have information regarding that. Cell phones, we heard a lot about cell phones. Cell phones were becoming a huge distraction in our schools. But we also heard when we spoke to our families that with the changing times around school safety, that while parents empathized with the disruptions that phones were causing, they also wanted to know that if there was ever an emergency, that their child would have access to a telephone. And so last year we spent the school year implementing a secondary pilot on cell phones where we had volunteer schools so we could learn. We found what we think is the right middle ground where students can see where the phone is, so it's almost like that emotional safety blanket. We use a variety of tools for them to see and have access, but there is the respect that when it is time for teaching, it is time for teaching, and the phone is away. But if ever there was an emergency, it would be very simple for a student to access that phone. We have been in about 30 schools so far since the school year has started. We're going to be in 3 more tomorrow. I can tell you we've been in elementary, middle, high, alternative schools, yet to see a cell phone out. And so we are very grateful for the students who are complying with off and away in every school every day, but we're also very grateful for the staff members who are keeping the expectations consistent, which we know is what makes the difference. Food insecurity, particularly coming out of COVID, we heard from a lot of families around food insecurity. We also know that the research says students who are hungry can't learn. And so we are grateful that this is the 3rd year in a row that we are able to provide free meals to all of our students. This is our food and nutrition program is an enterprise budget item, meaning that they are self-sustaining. They have made enough efficiencies as well as partnerships with other grantors that they are able to continue moving forward with this program. They are not reliant on federal funding to continue to serve our students free meals. And so we're excited about that. We also are up to 110 community schools that provide additional wraparound services and supports to our students. Mental health services, again, outcome of COVID, families had shared with us the need for more robust mental health services in our schools, not only for our older students, but also for our younger learners. We were able to have a partnership with Talkspace that started 2 years ago, access to telehealth. We know that our students the older ones especially, spend way too much time on the phone. And so if that's how they could access support, they are able to access support in that way. But we also have more than a $10 million grant from the state that allows us to bring mental health services to our schools in all areas, all levels. And we have more than 100 schools participating, and that continues to grow. Safety and climate, we talked about the inconsistent practices, and the last one is limited resources, that we were not 2 years ago leveraging technology as a part of our safety plan. Over the last few years, we now have a layered approach to school safety. We want school buildings to still feel like school buildings, but we also want to know that if ever there is an extreme emergency, that we have done our due diligence and everything in our power to make sure that we are in strong, quick communication with all of our emergency responders. And that's what OmniAlert allows us to do with AI overlaid on all of our cameras, which is direct communication with emergency responders. And OpenGate, we have OpenGate, which are those portable metal detectors where we use them at our large athletic events outdoors. And so with those actions already being completed and a part of how we move forward in Team BCPS, we've identified the following initiatives for your consideration: that we will provide coordinated support services in safe, inclusive environments to prepare our students for post-secondary success; that we will continue to build leadership capacity by guiding our school teams in data-driven and evidence-based practices; and that we will continue to support our student well-being through strong family and community partnerships. We understand how important families are to this work and caregivers, and we want to continue to advance that work in support of our students. Priority 3 is infrastructure. And so if we look at where we were with facilities, we have the 3rd oldest set of buildings in the state of Maryland. The Built to Learn funds that we received across the state helped us to make a lot of headway in Baltimore County Public Schools, but a lot of that funding was used for elementary schools. With the needs that we have in secondary schools, we're now in a place where we have a new middle school. The first one that we opened in 50 years was Nottingham Middle School. We finished the Pine Grove Middle School modernization. That was complete, and we have 3 high school projects in progress, which is the first time ever in BCPS history, Lansdowne High School, Towson, and Delaney, to meet a lot of these needs. Our ERP system, which is our enterprise resource planning in regular language, it's how all of our information talks to each other, internally and externally. We had a program that we were using, a system that we were using, that was obsolete, that was no longer in use in any other system. It was outdated and broken. We have just completed July 1, phase 1 of a modernized and fully functional program. The next July is phase 2. So by the end of it, it's a 4-year plan. It took 2 years of planning before we implemented the first part, which is human resources and payroll. The last part is budgeting. The first part also had information technology as a part of that, making sure that good data is in so that good data comes out, and also making sure that we move to industry standard in terms of how we operate across this large school system. Human resources had the feedback of being ineffective and frustrating. They are streamlined now, very responsive, and they have many improved processes that we continue to dipstick with our stakeholders. We have a customer service center that is very responsive to meet the needs of our 15,000 employees. Transportation, we heard feedback around reliability of service and around families having access to just-in-time information. There is stronger accountability and responsiveness when it comes to our transportation programs for the more than 70,000 students that ride our buses day in and day out. Staffing, when it came to staffing, we allocated staffing based on enrollment and the number of students in school, but the process was pretty chaotic. We had no one system where we could double check and ensure that we were using an algorithm or no specific tool. We really worked using Excel in many pieces. We now have an organized, data-driven staffing process, that there is an algorithm, and we're able to make sure that there's equitable allocation of resources. And so if we open a new building and resources need to go to that new building, that occurs, but also in the place that lost hundreds of students, that those resources are moved over, which is extremely important in tighter fiscal times. And lastly, onboarding. One of the things that we have to do when we want to retain staff is make sure that people have a smooth transition into Team BCPS and they know where to access support. And so in the past, people were left on their own, and we had a lot of things available on Schoology, which you know is a technology-based system. We have revamped our training process where we have mandatory training. We have a year-long required program for our principals, and our mentorship program is back to old-fashioned, in-person, providing that support that people need on a regular basis. And so we believe the key initiatives in this area are continuing to invest in facilities and infrastructure. While we have made some progress with these new buildings, there are still many more buildings that we need to bring up to this century's standards. Strengthen operational efficiency, student services, and safety. Continue to evolve as the technology evolves. We want to enhance our workforce development and planning and modernize our financial and human resource systems, which are well underway with the new ERP system. Our last priority, as you know, is highly effective staff. And in this area, as we've talked about staff throughout all of the other priorities, our key initiatives that we've identified for us as a system is to continue to attract, hire, and retain the best employees for Team BCPS, to increase pathways for aspiring educators. So we're doing a lot of work with our university partners to bring in educators into different pathways, to invest in effective professional development for all of our team members, because we understand that it is proper training and access to strategies that makes a difference in the performance of individuals, and continue our collaboration with universities, with nonprofits, and industry for us to grow a high-quality workforce. How will we know if we are successful? So we've identified some data points. We want to see continued increases in our ELA proficiency scores for our students. We do know that the state and BCPS is a part of the state workforce looking at the state assessment. There are going to be changes that are coming, but while we still have this assessment, we want to continue to see forward progress in literacy and mathematics. We want to continue to increase the graduation rate for all students, regardless of race and ethnicity, and we want to continue to improve attendance for our students in all grade levels. Our use of data continues to be extremely important. We want to continue to use our data not only as outcome data, but how we're going to monitor progress throughout the year. We want to track how effectively the new ERP system is supporting overall operations across all of our divisions and our 176 schools. We want to track the expanded access to mental health partnerships and what the impact is on student well-being and engagement. We continue to receive feedback from our students about their access to our telehealth services and whether or not they believe that it's had an impact on their well-being. That data is promising, and we want to continue to see that move in that direction. We want to increase the number of paraeducators and teachers who are participating in different cohorts as we grow our own with development programs, and analyze our long-term trends in hiring, retention, and promotion to improve our employee satisfaction strategies. You have seen this before. We are going to continue to measure what matters. We came up with this roadmap, these key indicators for college, career, and community success by studying our own data. We looked at our data from the past, looked at students not only during their pre-K through 12 experience in Team BCPS, but we also looked at what happened in our clearinghouse data. That is, when students go to college, whether it's 2-year or 4-year, they are still tagged as Baltimore County Public School graduates. What made for a successful student? And these are the key indicators. It starts as early as kindergarten, that students that were able to demonstrate readiness for kindergarten, they typically, if they continued along this trajectory, were college and career ready, which is why it's so important for us to continue to invest in full-day pre-kindergarten programs. In elementary school, the 2 markers that are most important are grade 3, reading at or above grade level, and we identified this 3 years ago. You might note that in the news you've heard last year, the state is now talking about wanting all school systems to make sure that students are reading at or above grade 3, and there's a lot of work happening for that. In BCPS, there's not a lot of movement because this was already a part of our plan from the beginning. In 5th grade, students demonstrating proficiency on the state assessment in literacy and mathematics. In 8th grade, that marker is Algebra 1 completion, a student's ability to access Algebra 1 as well as pass with a grade of C or higher. And in high school, there are a variety of different markers, whether it's SAT, ACT, a performance on AP exam, or the Algebra 2, taking Algebra 2 and completing it with a grade C or higher that lead to college, career, and community readiness. You likely have seen a version of this diagram before, and this just shows our year 1 results and our year 2 results. As you know, implementation science says that when you are looking to improve a school system, it typically takes 3 years for you to establish the foundation, and 3 years later you can expect to see the data start to move in the right direction. For us, we're seeing data move in the right direction before 3 years. As I have said before, and I will always continue to say, when you start a downward trajectory from 2011. We didn't get to the place in 2023 overnight, and it's going to take more than 1 or 2 years to move us back up to the top of the state. But we are encouraged by the data that we're seeing. Every piece of data that you see on this slide represents an external data point. So this is reliability and validity tested by an external measure of what is happening in Baltimore County Public Schools for our students, with, again, a lot more work that we have to do. And so at this time, I'm going to turn it back over to Ms. Onijala.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rogers. Okay, I know that was a lot of information, so probably need to shake it out, stand up, stretch a little bit, because right now we're going to turn it over to the portion where you all get to talk to each other about what you heard from Dr. Rogers, what you're seeing, what your experiences have been with the school system, and we want you to reflect on the conversation thus far, but also you have on your table a couple of things. So you have the feedback and question card that has the 4 questions that you see up on the screen. Are the key initiatives aligned with the system priority areas? What items, areas have we missed? And we have the key initiatives on the table as well. That's this sheet that says, fast forward, developing the BCPS strategic plan key initiatives. So you all have that on your table. If you don't, my colleagues Javine and Charlie will make sure you get one, so you should have that. Second question, how can we better align our efforts to ensure we prepare all children to succeed in life? Third question, do you have any specific recommendations or considerations for the strategic plan? And then lastly, does the draft plan identify measures of success? Dr. Rogers just took you through a lot of measures of success, things that we're holding ourselves accountable to, but we want you to reflect on what you heard, what may be missing. If it looks good, let us know it looks good. If you have suggestions, please write them down on your card. So at this time, my colleagues are going to hand out the chart paper. We would like you to first spend a couple of minutes just reflecting yourself, with your neighbor. That's this card here, the 4 questions. You also have the portrait of a graduate card on your table. Dr. Rogers already took you through the roadmap about what we are looking for. But what do you think a BCPS graduate needs to know, be able to do? What skills are important as they head out to workforce, post-secondary education? At the last meeting, we heard a lot about social skills, communication skills, right? Just being a global citizen. What does that look like for you as you think about your children, as you think about children in your community that your children may interact with? What do they need to be able to know and do as they prepare to leave Team BCPS, however long away that may be? So for some of you, your children are just starting out. For some of you, they're at the end. We want to hear from you what a successful graduate knows and what they are able to do. And so take a few minutes, reflect, self-reflection, write your thoughts down on your cards, and then after just like 2-3 minutes, we're going to ask you to come together as a table and reflect on the 4 questions that are up on the screen and also on this feedback question card. And then we're going to ask you to select one person from your table who will report out just 1 or 2 things from each of the questions. I know that you're going to have a lot of things to write down. We won't have time to get through all of them, but you select your spokesperson. They will give us the top 2, no more than 2 things for each question so that we can get to everyone, all of the tables in the room tonight. Okay, and then once we do that, let me just make sure. And then following that, we'll have question and answer, where you get to ask the superintendent questions that are aligned to what you've heard tonight, specific to the strategic plan and the initiatives that she's outlined. Again, specific to the strategic plan, the initiatives that she's reviewed, the then and now, what she shared. Again, just keeping it focused on the strategic plan. We do have staff from a number of departments. Could you wave? Team, special education, division of schools, family and community engagement. Who am I missing? Human resources. There are a lot of folks here. So if you have questions that are not related to the strategic plan, we ask that you direct it to the staff who are here and ready to assist you. So I think I have covered all of our housekeeping rules. I'm getting the thumbs up. So we'll give you a moment or 2 to just kind of reflect again on the questions. Let me go back. And then you'll come together as a table, talk about what you've written down, talk about what the group feels, write that down on your chart paper, and then we'll come around in a few minutes and have you all report out on what you've discussed. Are there any questions about the process? Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Yes. Sure. This one? This one? Great. Mhm. Any other questions about the process? Okay, we'll give you a few minutes to gather your thoughts and then we'll engage in our group conversation. Thank you so much. Thank you all so much for engaging in conversation at your tables. I know that I learn a lot when I'm listening to others and hearing their perspectives and lived experiences. We did want to mention, because it came up at our last meeting, just the competing priorities. If you're wondering, you may have thought there would be a packed house. We understand that there's a lot going on any given day in our system. So tonight there's a Delaney High School pre-construction meeting. There's a big Recs and Parks meeting, a joint meeting with our board and the Parks and Rec board. So we just know that there's a lot happening in the system, and we again want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules, because we know in addition to countywide and system-wide events, you also have school-based events, PTA meetings, theater, sports, you name it, it's happening. So we really, really appreciate the time that you've taken to come out and share your thoughts and perspectives. So we are gonna go around to the groups now and have you all report out on your ideas, responses as it relates to these 4 questions. You can also share out with everyone what you discussed about the portrait of a BCPS graduate. And so we ask that you pick one spokesperson. We have very few rules. We're a very happy and friendly bunch. We just ask that you don't take the microphone from us. We're gonna take it back from you. And we ask that you keep your comments concise so that we can get to everyone and again have that open question and answer portion. So Charlie, if you want to start back here, have their spokesperson report out on the 4 questions.
We're gonna work together.
Okay, that's fine. So again, just 1 or 2 points per question. You may have talked about 10 things for each question. We don't have time for that tonight, so thank you. Yes, you got it, okay.
Okay, good. Amen. Starting with question number 1, we're going to be obedient. Here are the key initiatives aligned with the 6 priority areas. We think they were, but the questions we have is where can we find the curriculums? And also the second thing was comparable data. We noticed that when we're looking at year 1, year 2, it looked like it was comparing apples to oranges. For example, we had good information, but it didn't look like it went from to the next year comparing the same data the same way. Mm-hmm. So it didn't give us a clear feeling about that. Second thing was, how can we better align our efforts to ensure we prepare all children to succeed in life? And the question was, what about children that don't meet the marker? You have anything else on this one? I know you had some input on that one real quick. If not,
No, I don't. I mean, just, I guess that was an area where we felt like we wanted to hear a little more.
Yeah, I think they mentioned, we do know you mentioned the 110 schools that had the wraparound services, so we wanted to learn more about that and how that's implemented, yeah.
We'll come back to that during the Q&A. Okay, third question, any specific recommendations or considerations?
Right. We believe that if we're going to talk about being more transparent, the question, what we don't hear and we didn't hear tonight was, how did the teachers, where did the teachers give input? So instead of having it sounded like, I'm not saying that it is, it sounded like all the information suggestions came downward. Versus I didn't hear anything about how the teachers gave input and moved upward, especially when you talk about the teachers having, like coming in today, I saw teachers, they brought a lot of supplies and things with them. We know that impacts the HR and things like that. So we didn't see that and hear about that.
And last one, measures of success.
Does the draft plan identify measures of success? Same thing with comparison of the funds. is there anything that shows where the teachers, how much teachers are off the chart, making things happen, blowing it up, compared to what is their personal investment in doing that? And if there's a personal, if this person's blowing it up, this person put a lot of their own money into it, then that might be worth looking at to say, how do we have to adjust some funds to deal with that? And then there's a way to measure parent involvement. So if that's in there, that kind of helps us understand too.
Wonderful feedback. Thank you so much. That was very comprehensive. Thank you. Okay. All right. We're going to come over to this table here. Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Charlie. You can go there. That's fine. All right. Question 1.
For question 1,
Yes.
we said yes, they are aligned.
Okay. I love it. Straight to the point.
For question 2, we said that 2 things. One is we'd like to consider having more integrated career path exposure for students, career days, those sorts of things from elementary, middle, and high school. Obviously, there's different needs for each of those students. And then having a coordinated pathway for monitoring and teaching the soft skills such as leadership and character development and those sorts of things. Point number 3, we're
Specific
good on that one as well.
Great.
And point number 4, we agree that we were very impressed with the draft plan, especially the measurables, percentage decreases in absenteeism and things like that that are measurable, and the system can deliver on those.
Okay. Thank you for that. Very clear, straight to the point. Appreciate that. All right. This table here.
We're gonna all talk.
All right. As long as you keep it to 1 or 2 points per question.
All right. The first one was that we didn't talk much, so consider yes.
Okay.
Second one, I will let you speak to the proper staffing, so you can.
Class size has a major component. I've seen it in person, how big of a difference it can make. So we don't have proper staffing, we don't have proper class sizes, and I think that would make a massive difference, as well as our support staff are not supported. Teachers can't teach without support staff, and support staff are feeling really pretty low, and it's only October. The new payment system is definitely not working.
Question
Another point on number 2 is about gifted program. So it's about where, not too much mention here on the gifted program, but how do we push the kids that's gifted even further and enhance their skill as well. I'll let you talk
Number
about
3?
Number 3.
Yeah. Specific recommendations or
Sorry.
considerations? Yeah.
Encouraging students to, or basically incubate them into becoming BCPS students. So I specifically think that there's a lot of bilingual students, not just Spanish speaking, but other languages, and incubating them into become interpreters, but also incubating students before they graduate from high school. They can come in ready to be support staff, because that's really paraeducation. So like in Baltimore City, they come out when they graduate. They basically have like a career, it's something that they have 2 years of college level grade classes. So something like that, but interpreters would be a good place to start.
And then the last one about identifying measures of success.
I think we have one more item on
Okay,
the number
sure.
3.
Uh-huh.
We haven't talked too much on the AI side of the topic. AI side of topic. What do we do, or what are our plan to equip the kids with the skills that they can grow when they go to the society? They can handle or thrive in the AI world where robots will do majority of the repetitive work. So that actually leads to the fourth one. The fourth one in terms of measurement, I know academic is very key, but how do we measure emotional intelligence growth? How do we measure leadership skill? So soft skill that will take over the world, that how do we grow kids in that area?
Again, wonderful feedback. Thank you so much. I know that Dr. Rogers likes to reflect on what she's heard from the groups, and then we'll open it up for question and answer. So Dr. Rogers?
Yes, thank you. You guys are a small but mighty team, a lot of rich feedback. So thank you for being open and sharing with us. So the first question is the easy one. Where can you find the curricula that we're teaching our students? Right on our website. So if you go to our website and you can type in literacy, it'll take you to the literacy page. And there's a link for all of our scope and sequence guides. You'll find all of the objectives in terms of what we're teaching right there. And if there's more information that you need that you don't see, all of the contact information for the respective departments are there. There was also a great observation made about the graphic that we showed you, year one measures as well as year two. So when we report out ourselves against the state as well as ourselves compared to last year's progress. But at the beginning of the year, there are certain data that are available versus the end of the year. For example, graduation rate shows up on year one, but it doesn't show up on year two yet because it's not out until January. So timing changes what that looks like. But in terms of how we report our data, when we talk about those MCAP scores, so you see 2 years of MCAP data there, because those come out in August and we're past that time. But we always report out that data, compare it to what the previous year our performance was, as well as we look at how close we are to approaching the state. As you know, we've had this downward trajectory, and so the first thing we needed to do is stop going down, which we stopped. So we needed to level out and move back up. As we move back up, our goal is to then meet where the state is, then surpass the state. And so we're well on our way to meeting the state. There are some areas where we had more growth than the state has made in progress, like ELA assessment this year that we've shared, MISA for grade either 5 or 8, we've exceeded the percentage of state growth there. So as those things come out, we share them directly, but you are correct. In that graphic, it shows where we are at this point in time. So I appreciate that being raised. Wanted to hear more about community schools and the 110 schools that have access to wraparound services. So the good thing and the bad thing about community schools is that the designation is made by the state of Maryland. They have a formula that they apply uniformly across all 24 school systems, and they tell us these are the schools in your school system that are community schools. We can't create our own criteria and pick, because we probably, and they probably know every school system would say, well, let me spread out the money to all 176 schools. But that, they have a targeted audience that they're going for. So we had 91 until this school year, and then the state added 20 more. So we have 20 community schools that are in year one. In short, the community school program is about leveling the playing field for families. Typically, predominantly families living in poverty, making sure that students have access to resources, basic necessities, health care, the families have access to outside agencies, being a partner, but also the academics. So the after-school programming time is a big part of it, having access to tutors for the students so that we can fill any gaps is also some of the work that they do. And because we know mental health is an area of need for us in our school system across the state, particularly after COVID. That is a part of our work. The site-based teams, every community school is required to have a site-based team with stakeholders where they do an assessment from the families, they get feedback about what they need, and then they take that plan or those needs and develop a plan for implementation of what kind of services they're bringing to a school. So some school might focus more on tutoring, where another school might focus more on having clothing, and everyone has medical care. That's a part of our program. And so more information about community schools can be found on our website. Just go to the search bar, bcps.org, put in community schools. You'll see all 110 schools, and then you'll see all of the information around what we use and what year they are, because depending on your year, you're either in planning or you're actually in implementation. Teacher input in the process. So that is incredibly important to us, and a great question. I don't remember where it came from, but one of the things that we talk about all the time is engage, empower, and excel. And the engage part is the first step, that we want to engage as many stakeholders as possible, and we do it in a variety of ways. So we send out a variety of surveys. I have stakeholder groups. Every division chief has their own stakeholder group. We go out into the schools. There have been occasions, specifically if we were planning on rolling out something that had impact in the schools, where I would ask the union leadership to meet with the representatives from the buildings and meet with them directly to share and get their feedback. And so this is how we develop our plans. So even in professional development, anything that we come out with, we vet through a group of teachers, through teacher leaders. Most of the time, they help us in design and in feedback before implementation. And then for every professional development that we provide, they provide us feedback, and they are not shy of letting us know if it is meeting their needs or not, and if we need to make an adjustment for us to do that. So thank you. We just assume, or I just assumed, that it's common practice, because we've been doing this for 3 years now, but it's very good to highlight and for everyone to understand what our process is. And we do the same thing with our principals, with our central office leaders, with our operations staff, in terms of how we gather input. Talked about teacher investments. There have been, once it's back to school time, there's always a lot of articles around teachers taking money out of their own pocket to bring, to purchase things for the classroom. Very important for everyone to know that anything that a teacher needs is provided by Baltimore County Public Schools, but we do not provide the Pinterest classroom. And so all of those extra really nice things, like I want some extra curtains, I want some extra cushy, string lights, I want extra, stickers that change color. All of those things we do not provide. However, we do have an exchangery. No other school system in the state of Maryland has that, and that's where teachers can go and shop for free. Part of the work of the Education Foundation is working to obtain grants and to receive in-kind donations. So all of those things that some people buy themselves from Target, from Oriental Trading, Staples, et cetera, are donated, and they can go and shop for free at the exchangery. I think every teacher can go, is it 3 or 4 times per year for free and stock up for their classroom. So they do not have to spend out of their pocket if they don't want to. And that there is also, I think, a $200 tax rebate for people, teachers who purchase their own additional things for students. Let's see, more career exposure. I would love to, learn more about that. I think we do some things in elementary, middle, and high, but there's always an opportunity to expand those efforts. And so if you have any direct feedback, we'd love to hear that. We have a robust CTE program. We are expanding our apprenticeships as well as our internships. We have more than 1,500 internships in our schools, but opportunities. We also work with Junior Achievement to bring our elementary schools and middle school students to an experience to learn about careers and finance. If there are specific suggestions that you have, we would love to hear that, to take that back to our team that works in that area. The soft skills pathway, emotional intelligence and leadership, 100% in agreement. We hear from our partners that we work with, from the universities, and we know from, as being a major employer, that soft skills are critically important. It's not just the knowledge of the technology or the content that is important. And so in elementary school, I think our elementary school principals really do a good job of implementing with fidelity a program about values around characters, expectations, and we're very explicit in teaching students daily routines and how to value each other and things of that nature. In secondary schools, I think there's room to beyond AVID. AVID is a place where there's an elective class that is targeted to students and goal setting and learning specific skills, there's probably opportunity for us to be more explicit at the secondary school level around those soft skills for all of our students, no matter what school they go to. So that's definitely feedback that we will bring back, and gather some input from our teachers as well as principals about ways that they see that entering our schools. Recruiting students as employees, we started some small programs with these efforts. We started last year, and we're finding some success with that. And we want to grow those programs. Some of the apprenticeships that we have are BCPS apprenticeships, and we also have relationships with universities for people who want to become teachers, where they receive a scholarship for the 4 years, and then they have to come back and give 3 years of service as a teacher here, where we're trying to recruit the students, whether they want to go a teaching pathway or another pathway, like you mentioned, operations, you mentioned serving as an interpreter. I don't know that we do a lot of work around serving as interpreters, probably because AI is taking over a lot of that, which was a topic that you mentioned, but I think there are continued opportunities for us to recruit from within. We also have staff members that maybe start as paraprofessionals that we have provided pathways for them to move up into other areas and other positions in the system. The conversation about AI is a conversation that I had earlier today when I met with the county council around how are we using AI? So right now, there are certain ways that we're using AI academically. If you look at our literacy program for elementary, Amira is AI. So when our teachers used to have to go around to every individual student, and the student would have to read a passage to them and give that feedback one-on-one, and so it takes a week to really assess all of the students and then implement some corrective measures. Now students have to read with their headsets into Amira. Amira takes that feedback and makes those corrections. And so by the time the teacher is engaging small groups and large groups, those students are also receiving real-time feedback, improving their fluency as well as reading comprehension. But AI, as we know, it can be used as a tool for good, and there are great things that happen, but there are also some changes that are not in alignment with our expectations. And so our Department of Information Technology is really working with leaders across the state about what the next best steps are, making sure that our teachers have access to their information so they can infuse it into their classrooms. We're looking for those early adopters, but really it's a work in progress. And I think you have a great point about how do we train, as well as the soft skills, how do we train our students in positive and productive use of AI to prepare them to be, a well-rounded graduate of BCPS. So that's definitely something that we can take back. Gifted students. One of the things that was extremely important to us, we talk about our students receive special education services, our multilingual learners. When we looked at all of our new curriculum, we made sure that there was specific information and lessons for them. We did the same thing for our gifted students. So none of the new curriculum that we have is missing enrichment and materials that push our students who have already met the objectives further. We also continue to grow our programs. We brought more college programs directly into our high schools, expanded our partnership with CCBC. We have dual enrollment opportunities for our students, not only academically, but also if they want to go the CTE route where they are receiving that specific training and the credentials. And so that's some of what we do, but at the earlier grades, making sure that all of this new curriculum has these opportunities built in, as well as the liaison at the school, where if there is a family member that feels that their student is ready for gifted instruction, that they can reach out directly to who that that specific person at the school to discuss further what the situation is. If they feel that their student is more advanced in the material that they're receiving, that would be what we direct a family to do, speak directly to someone at the school for that. But the materials are available at all grade levels in our school for our students to access. Class size. So class size for us, one of the things that has happened with the blueprint, and it's a story that we've started to tell across the state of Maryland, is an unintended consequence is, I believe all 24 school systems over the last several years have increased their class sizes in one way or another to meet the mandate of the blueprint in other areas. For us in Baltimore County, we did not increase class sizes for this current year, but you'll recall 2 years ago we did at the secondary level, but not at elementary. We actually took grades 3 through 5. We reduced the class sizes there. That being said, fewer students gives opportunity for more individualized instruction. We really, with the dwindling resources, really are trying to maintain, to not increase. For example, in our elementary schools, you can go into our elementary schools. Our rule is you'll see numbers in the 20s, many times low 20s or lower than that in most of our classes, whereas just go over to our neighbor, talk to, a neighbor in a neighboring county where the rule is students in the 30s. We would love to be lower than that, but we're trying to maintain at least where we are now, and as we have differentiated resources, that we're making sure that those resources go to the schools that need them, that we don't have large numbers. We have a public dashboard for staffing for every individual school, so a parent can look to see what kind of staffing has been allocated based on the number of students, and we would encourage, if you have any questions specific to particular staffing decisions, to have that conversation directly with the principal and any class sizes that you might find to be a concern. And parent involvement. Parent involvement, we have announced that schools are open. They are open. We have recruited volunteers. There's a volunteer pathway on our website. We ask that if your particular school is closed, that you identify other schools that you'd be willing to volunteer in. Our times where we need parents are in the morning, during lunchtime, and after school. The most is where we need parents. We encourage parents to work directly with the school leadership. PTAs are active. We meet personally with the Council of PTAs monthly. That's all the presidents from all of the schools, so we can hear their questions, share updates with them. We ask that you get plugged into your school PTA, but also, reach out to the front office about different opportunities for parent involvement. But we absolutely support and want as much parent involvement as possible. That's why we revamped our whole stakeholder survey that used to be 30 plus questions that no one filled out to more than, I think we had 100,000 plus respondents when we moved it to something that was manageable directly from the feedback that we heard from our stakeholders about what was reasonable and what they wanted to talk about. So thank you for those points. So if anybody has any unanswered questions about the strategic plan, anything that was on any of the slides, anything that you mentioned when you did the whip around that I missed by accident, please, happy to take that.
If you could explain the ERP a little more, what that is.
Sure. So it's Enterprise Resource Planning System. So, but in regular folks' language, it's your payroll, it's Department of Information Technology, it is your budgeting software, and it is, I'm missing one more. He's standing right in front of me, and human resources. So that's funny. I won't be able to live that down. So it is the infrastructure or the system that you use for all of those things to talk within the system. So clean data in is clean data out. So for all of our 15,000 employees, the way that they can access their payroll, how they put in their time, how they can fill out an application for a job, all of these things are a part of that system. Yes.
Just want to quickly, the AI comments or questions I have is less about how students use the AI tool, but what skill, soft skill or hard skill, that they need to thrive in AI world. For example, do they need to learn new technology, that coding or focus on coding, technology enhancement, of course, together with like soft skill. So that's where I'm trying to say, do we have a strategic plan for that area to equip the kids with those skills?
I mean, I think you bring up a great point, and I think it's a great add, like you said, coupled with the soft skills. We do not currently have a robust plan of, what that looks like, but I think it's a great addition for us to look into what that might look like for our students. Yes, thank you.
Real quick, what about the students that are not prepared to go to the next grade? I didn't see or hear about a plan for those students.
Yes, so across the state, one of the things, and I think it's 2028, that MSDE, the Maryland State Department of Education, is putting forward retention plans for students that are not, and they're tying it to literacy, that reading proficiency in grade 3. And so the expectation is that you would implement a robust literacy program, that for students that weren't doing well during the school year, that you have some things in place in the afternoons as well as over the summer to help remediate them. We start with instruction, what we call Tier 1 instruction, which is good teaching and learning for every single student that's in the classroom, which is why it's so important for us to be aligned to those standards. But then we know, let's say you have 20 students, 16 of your students, that works for those 16 students. They're good, you can move on the next day. You have 4 students where you have to do something different. For us, we call those Tier 2 interventions. And so that Tier 2 intervention might look like an IELTS reading program or Read 180, where you're really working on either comprehension or phonics with the students. Out of the 4 students that you had in that group, that Tier 1 practice on a regular basis is likely to yield results for 2 or 3 of those students. But then we have found that there is still, many times one student that needs more, and that's where we use that Tier 3 intervention in support of that very specific prescribed instruction for that student to help to fill those gaps. Sometimes students who are receiving Tier 3 supports, those are also students that either have an individualized education plan or they have a 504 plan to close those gaps, where there's a whole team that comes together, identify the goals, there's the assessments there, and then they come together on a regular basis to monitor those progress for our students. And so the state has a plan that is going to be in implementation 2028 across the state, especially at the elementary grades. We have put in, over the last 2 years, changed our summer programming so that our summer programming is aligned to specific standards, because we have the data of where our students were needing more help, and we've targeted the outreach. While many students can access, there are students that we know based on their data need additional help over the summer, and so we outreach directly to those families and keep outreaching to them and provide what they need in terms of meals and transportation to make it accessible, so we can get as many students as possible in the summer, so we can avoid that summer slide that typically happens. And so that is part of our leverage strategy as we're moving academic achievement forward, that we also know that some students have more work to do to get up to par, and so what are we doing to address that as well?
Before we go over next steps,
I think that's it for me.
respect everyone's time. Okay. All right. Thank you, Dr. Rogers. So, what happens next? We're going to come around and gather all of your feedback. So I know I saw some notebook writing. I hope we can rip that piece of paper out and take it with us because you had some great points. So if not, maybe we could take a picture. We want to gather all of your feedback, get your notes, and then we are compiling this. Our team works to review everything that you've written. We create a little chart so that when we continue to have these meetings, and we have 3 more if you have nothing else going on, October 14th, 16th, and the 23rd, come join us. And then following that, because as you see here, there are about 10, 11 people here, and we're in a system of 110,000 students. So we're missing a lot of voices. And that's where a survey comes in handy. Dr. Rogers spoke to her advisory groups and all of the other ways that we're planning on engaging, but we are going to push out exactly pretty much what you've heard tonight in survey form to all members of Team BCPS. So if you couldn't make a meeting, you do have an opportunity to share your thoughts on those 4 questions, on the key initiatives. We're going to share all of the documents with our members of our community as well. We're going to be developing a website and dashboard so that you can kind of track the progress, track what we've said here tonight. You'll be able to watch the video to hear back some of your questions and your feedback and see what other members of the community have had to say over the course of our meetings. And then, of course, as always, providing Team BCPS updates. We're texting you, we're emailing you, we're calling you. How do I know it's effective? Because I often get messages back that, why did you call me? You didn't need to send me a text about the strategic plan meeting. And I say, yes, I did need to send you a text because I want you to be here to hear the really important information that our superintendent has to share. So that's where we are in this process. We have quite a bit to go in terms of gathering feedback, in terms of engaging with the community and our stakeholders, and making sure that we're reporting out to you all frequently on our progress. And then, of course, you will know when the plan is ready for its grand reveal. So that's what we have. Again, we have 3 more meetings, October 14th, October 16th, and the 23rd. Please tell your neighbors, tell members of your school community to come out and join us. We want to hear from everyone. It's really important that we capture your voices. So once again, we want to thank you so much for spending your evening with us. Have a safe trip home, and we will see you at one of our next meetings. Thank you. Have a good night.